Mr. Bishke, did you have an opportunity to go through the pre-sentence report and talk to Mr. Seeger about that? Mr. Seeger, are there any additions, deletions, or corrections?
You're not. I'm meeting for one side right now.
All right, Mr. Ziegler, do the people have any additions, deletions, or corrections?
No, Your Honor.
Do you have any victims that wish to address the court today?
No, Your Honor.
Anything on behalf of the people for allegation?
Your Honor, Mr. Bishke is before the court for one count of aggravated domestic violence. He has a history of domestic violence and drunk driving. Mr. Bishke has a problem with alcohol. Apparently, his prior terms of probation in 2008, 2011, 2019 were not successful in addressing this issue. I agree with the probation officer. Well, another term of probation would be beneficial in this case. A term of incarceration is also warranted. It's notable that he's already on bond for a domestic violence against the victim, and that he refused to come to the door and tried to hide from the police when they came to talk to him. You also note that in this case, Your Honor, the injury was quite severe. With EMS, this is from the police report, when EMS arrived to treat Ms. Martini, she did not wish treatment and asked sarcastically, "Am I going to die from it?" And EMS responded, "Actually, you could." EMS said it was the worst head injury they had seen in a very long time. Ms. Martini required several staples in her head to help repair the damage. I've seen the photographs and I can say that the gash to her head was significant, Your Honor. I'm sure Mr. Bishke will say he did not intend to cause that kind of injury, but I think that misses the point in this case, Your Honor. You have a track record of being intoxicated, you have a track record of domestic violence, you are on bond for domestic violence, and then you have further contact with the victim, you do an argument with the victim. It does a little to help your case that you didn't intend to cause the particular injuries that actually resulted. This is the danger of mixing alcohol and domestic violence. It doesn't happen that these kinds of injuries result in every case, but it is a danger and it does happen. And now Mr. Bishke has to face the consequences of that. This is a misdemeanor, Your Honor. As far as I can tell from reviewing the PSI, Mr. Bishke has never spent any lengthy amount of time in jail. I think under these circumstances, some upfront jail is important to impress upon him the serious nature of his actions and the serious consequences that those actions have, not just for him, but for the victim as well. I would ask the court to impose 90 days of jail, followed by a year of probation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seeger.
Your Honor, I can make no excuse for Mr. Bishop's conduct. I don't think not to give one either. Clearly, in speaking with him, he has indicated to me that he's very remorseful for his actions, which clearly he should do. I have, at least as I understand it, that not specifically looking for incarceration, but would be more inclined to look towards some sort of type of rehabilitation. It appears to me that they're going to continue to engage in some kind of relationship, which is either fortuitous for both of them, or it may be a situation where they need to go their separate ways. That's not for me to decide. That's for people to make decisions about what they're going to do in person. But clearly, Your Honor, there can't be any further problems in the two of them, whatever they are. There can't be pushing, there can't be shoving, there can't be hitting. And it really doesn't matter what the agreement is or whether or not they're intoxicated, because it's generally just not acceptable. There may be explanations as to why things happen. Certainly in relationships, sometimes they're difficult. Sometimes things get said or things happen when another party is upset. And I think that that's what happened in this case. He's doing his best, Your Honor. He has at least engaged himself in counseling. He's going to the men's program. I think the report had said that he had gone to 5 classes through the men's group. So unilaterally, he has elected to do that. It's not something that he's been ordered to do. If he's not placed on probation, it wouldn't even be a condition of probation either, to the extent that the court thought that men's program was appropriate. Traditionally, in situations where it's domestic violence, even in a domestic violence second or something of that nature, the court would probably require you to do some kind of counseling of some sort, which he's already engaged in, which I think is a benefit to him and hopefully his significant other, in as much as if they continue to be a couple, I don't want there to be further problems somewhere in the future, and even if they're not, I don't want there to be problems somewhere in time. I do agree with Mr. Bishke that, he's not diminishing that he did in fact push his significant other. He's not diminishing that he is the cause of her injury. But I don't think that that was his specific intent to cause harm to her in the manner in which she received it. And not diminishing that harm resulted as a direct and proximate cause of his actions. But I don't think that that was his specific intent. But it's unfortunate that he put himself in a position where a significant other could be injured. And he has other responsibilities to the family. The long and the short is, Your Honor, he's hopeful that the court will give him another opportunity, at least as I understand it, the complaining witness wishes him to have another opportunity. I recognize that he needs to change his behavior, and he likewise recognizes that he needs to change his behavior. And the one way that people are able to do that is conceivably punishment. It's not a felony. It is a misdemeanor. I'm not diminishing its importance, much like I wouldn't diminish it, the drunk driving second that's been reduced from drunk driving third. But I do indicate, I would say that counseling, generally speaking, whether it's a substance abuse problem or a domestic problem, is generally in society's best interest. It's generally probably in particular individuals' best interest. And this is not headstrong about wanting incarceration. Perhaps this is the last stop for Mr. Bishke, where he received the ability to be placed on probation, with the understanding that he needs to engage himself in counseling. To the extent that the court was going to put him on probation, perhaps the court could, as it does in other files, hold a certain amount of jail time over his head to the extent that he's not successful on his probation. If he has a substance abuse problem, which might include consuming alcohol or domestic issues, if he's not engaged in this programming, if he has violations relative to drinking or using drugs, then perhaps the court is in a position to give him whatever jail time it is without passing go relative to but he does accept responsibility for his own actions. He's just asking the court for one final opportunity. He recognizes that he's put himself in this position. He says that he's truly remorseful, because I really do think he is remorseful, because again, we do not diminish what happened. But I think that his self-reflection is perhaps a key point for him, and he's continuously contacting me. He's contacted me probably more than a lot of other clients, expressing his remorse and wanting to change. So hopefully we'll be able to do that. So I think the first component of what telling is that he's attended 5 or 6 men's groups programming, which I assume that if he had no intention of changing, he will.
Thank you. Mr. Bishke, anything you wanted to say today?
I'd like to address the court by saying I'm very sorry to Ashley Martini, also to the court for using my actions. I'd also like to say sorry to my mother, who are 12 and 8 years old. I have been living at her house for the past 4 months, and it's become a burden on her. I am remorseful, and I'm holding myself accountable for my actions. It will never happen again. I take responsibility for what I've done to Ashley. I'm not a public threat. This experience has been a wake-up call for me. Since this has happened, I've enrolled myself in Veracity counseling that I have attended 6 weeks now, every Monday. I've also had 6 urine screens that I have returned with negative results. I have never missed a court session. I have full-time employment. My child support is current, as I have my children Sunday through Friday as a single dad. I have a mortgage for 13 years. And I respectfully ask the court to consider probation and community service or any alternative sentence that allows me to continue working and supporting my children and responsibilities, while proving that I can do better. I understand that my actions have caused harm and fear. That is not the person I want to be. There is no excuse for how I handled the situation. I understand domestic violence is serious and that my behavior was wrong. I realize I need better tools to handle conflict and emotions. I'm in the process to make changes so that this never happens again. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Bishke, I did review the pre-sentence report. I'm familiar with what happened in this case. There's a very detailed description in there about the injuries and the circumstances that resulted from your conduct here. There's also a lot of information in that report about your background, your circumstances, and so forth. And so I take all of that into account along with what you've had to say here, as well as what the lawyers had to say. And, you know, it's certainly concerning from my standpoint. This isn't the first or second time you've been in front of the court for domestic violence charge. And the more it keeps happening, the less inclined, at least I am, to believe that this was some kind of misunderstanding or some kind of accident, or that you didn't intend harm. Maybe you didn't intend the degree of harm, but I think there's certainly an intent to cause harm in this case. This is your 5th domestic violence charge. Some of them have been dismissed. One of them, I think, was discharged under a 74, or I'm sorry, not 7411, but a 769 4A referral plea. So you've also had lots of time to work on this problem. And so it's hard for me to believe that, you know, it didn't work the last time. So now this time you're serious about it. You should have been serious about it the first time. And you were given probation and you know, I would assume some tools to help you deal with it through your deferral probation. And yet here we are again, not just one time after that, but several times after that. And so I think it's time for something different. I think just telling you to get some counseling and get some help, and you assuring that this is never going to happen again, which I didn't see those other sentencings, but I can be reasonably sure that you said something similar to what you're saying here today at your other sentencings for domestic violence. I think it's time to do something different now. And I think it's time for you to understand that there are real consequences to hurting somebody else, and particularly in this case where this could have resulted in much more serious injuries to this individual. And I think you're lucky that she didn't have some type of internal injuries in her brain resulting from this. And you could be here on a much more serious charge than you are. So I think it's time for a wake-up call for you. I think it's time for you to understand that if you're going to continue to commit offenses of domestic violence, that you're going to start facing some harsher and harsher penalties for that. So I do think probation is appropriate to monitor your activity, but I also think jail time is more than warranted by your actions in this case and your past history. The court is going to sentence you to 6 months in the Kalkaska County Jail. You do have credit for 7 days served. The court is going to sentence you to 12 months of probation. The court is going to adopt as the conditions of that probation all the terms and conditions listed in the report. And that includes that you not have any verbal, written, electronic, or physical contact with Ashley Martini, or either directly or through another person, and not be within 500 feet of her residence, school, or place of employment. The court is going to order that you pay court costs of $325, attorney fees of $350, the DNA testing fee of $60, a $53 state cost, and a supervision fee while you're on probation of $30 per month. Did I say the crime victims assessment?
I don't think you did.
Okay, crime victims assessment of $75. You do have the ability to seek an appeal of this sentence. If you wanted to appeal this sentence, you would need to file that paperwork within the next 21 days. If you have more questions about that, you can ask Mr. Seeger. He'd be more than happy to explain that process to you. Otherwise, at this time, you are remanded to the custody of the county.